I remember on a certain point, seems like people around me gave me a flashlight and told me, go ahead, shine the light in front of yourself. Look at the objects. Look at the world around you. That's what you are, that's what you see, and that's what it is. There's nothing more and nothing less, just what you see in front of you or what you see in the mirror. And when I ask, can I direct this flashlight on myself? And I said, why? There's nothing. There's just darkness, just biological matter, that the end in itself. And when I ask, what is death? They said, nothing. It's just nothing. You don't exist. You don't feel. You're nothing. Because if there is no matter, there is no life. And here I was with this flashlight, shining it brightly on people around me, on objects around me, trying to figure out the world. And always I wanted to shine this flashlight upon myself because it was interesting what I can see inside of me, because the reflection in the mirror wasn't enough. It's just a matter, a biological matter. But why then do we have this craving to find the answer? What waits us after death? And the funny thing, if we don't understand art, if we don't practice the ability to appreciate beauty, then we measure beauty with excitement of our flesh. Seems like we reverse ourselves back to the primitive feeling based on our instinct. Because what is morality? What is good and what is bad? I agree when Shakespeare said there's no good and there's no bad, but thinking makes it so. Yes, we think we know what is good and we think we know what is bad, but if you look deeper into those subjects, you would understand that we live inside the moral frame. And in the center of this moral frame, whether you like it or not, is God. And you cannot deny God, and you cannot take him out of the center, because once you lose the center, the moral frame collapses, and then we start talking about moral relativism. Then we keep talking about that all religions are good and all cultures are equal, because we don't have the center any longer, and we don't have our God. Because first there was God, and then we start developing around him our morality. We start understanding what is good and what is bad, because we have to understand everything through him and see the world like we see the world by the means of light. The same we have to see the world by the means of him. And once we took him out of equation, once we decided we don't need him any longer, the entire structure starts slowly collapsing, starts slowly disintegrate into some physical obsession. The obsession with our bodies, the obsession with the freedom. But look at the art of the past. Look at Michelangelo. Look at Raphael. Look at their creation. And look what we create right now when we are absolutely free to do whatever the hell we want. All our creations now is designed to please our body. And somehow we still deny the existence of our soul, like it doesn't matter. We try to find the answers on what death is, and we still can't. We can't come up with anything better than people came up 2,000 years ago during Jesus Christ. Because we need hope that death is not the end, and we need common moral frame, And in the middle of this frame, we need God because we need something to defend. If we don't defend this, if God doesn't exist, and if everything is relevant, if we become moral relativists and believe all cultures are equal, then how we can protect what is ours and how we can define what is ours, and if we stop practicing our own traditions, forgetting about our own rituals. If we don't practice traditions, we become weak. We have no history behind us any longer. We condemned our past. Our history is something bad. And what do we have in the present? But just worshipping our biology. And look how badly we worship that. We need restrictions. We need this ability to restrain ourselves. Our body, it's easy to satisfy our body. It's easy to enslave by our own biology because we all have urges and we always follow those urges. But the religion within itself help us to restrain ourselves, to become better human beings. Without God, we're just biology, mindless, senseless, brutal biology that constantly looking for procreation by any means necessary, for survival, and for many other things. And even now, we became much worse. If you look at the modern world, at the West itself, we have so much comfort, and we have so much propagation where we create so many gadgets that keep satisfying our biological urges. Seems like everything has been designed to keep us on a leash, and we keep putting ourselves voluntarily into this spiritual hibernation. If there's no God, then I'm God. Then I can create my own morals. Then I can define by myself what is good and what is bad. Because why wouldn't I? I can use my intellect through a lot of intellectual gymnastics to find the answer, a justification for my own evilness. Why wouldn't I do that? And we have a lot of things right now when people celebrate murders of other people, when people celebrate insanity and degeneracy, without even thinking about why they're celebrating this in the first place. But that's the scary. There's nothing worse than intellect that obsessed with itself. Because once you become obsessed with your own intelligence, you can justify everything. Especially if you don't kill nobody, Seems like if I hurted myself with my lifestyle, it's on me. But at the same time, when you hurt yourself, you hurt other people as well, whether you like it or not, because we're all interconnected. We don't live on an island. We live in community. And we are responsible for each other's sins and for each other's virtues. Because we have to reflect each other's, in some sense, in a spiritual way. We have to help each other to become better. But we became so separated in our own illusions of independence. But independence from what? From common sense? From the ability to understand properly the world through the moral frame of Christianity that we try to abandon. And then we take our morals for granted, but once someone violates our morals, we stop being afraid because suddenly we have people around us who don't take those morals for granted, but just smash them with their own moral frame that alien to us. But we have no response because we don't have God in the center, while other people has their own God and they try to install their own God inside of our own moral frame, right in the center of it. And how we can respond if we don't have our own God? How we can supposed to make proper sacrifice if we don't know about sacrifices anything? What we want is comfort. Close our eyes and keep ourselves inside of the spiritual hibernation as long as possible, till death do us apart. But in the end, the West would collapse if we don't come back to the roots, to the Christianity itself, to the God. We need God back in the center of this moral frame. Otherwise, there's no maintenance for this moral frame, and there's no people who would bend the knee in humbleness to fix this moral frame, to propagate the moral idea of Christianity across generations. Because traditions are experience that work. But you have to believe in this tradition because you have to practice them every day. And every tradition consists several rituals that have to come from father to son, from one family to another, from a neighbor to a neighbor. Because that's what unites us, common rituals that we have to practice daily. Otherwise, we would separate each other on units. We're going to praise our own golden calf, our own idols, our own bodies, our own sexual deviance, this digital degeneracy. We poison ourselves with the lack of looking inside of us. We keep holding this flashlight and shine on the wrong things. And we don't want to direct this flashlight on our own self. We don't want to see ourselves. We don't want to experience our soul. The idea of beauty. Because real beauty is not about excitement of your flesh. Real beauty is about excitement of your soul. But if you don't have soul, then you don't see real beauty. Because if you deny this idea that you have soul, you will never see a real beauty. You will never create true art. Michelangelo created one of his greatest pieces when he was 26. And we have now nothing. No Michelangelos, no Raphael, no Da Vinci, no more great pieces of art, just because we became so obsessed with these technologies that keep ruling over us. And technologies have no soul, but they have pattern recognition, and they recognize pattern of the world we have no idea about, and we're getting so confused that we don't know how to discriminate between what is real and what is not. And the more time we spend with technology versus time with God, the less we understand ourselves and the less we accept that we have soul. And without soul, there's no way to understand real beauty in this world and within and without us.